you know, if you're an espresso enthusiast and you're wanting to have that sort of ritual in the morning and something like, especially if like you're into gear and, you know, it's your thing to, like me, obviously this is my job, but I love this kind of stuff. I love the design of it. So if I got to look at this every morning as I was pulling my shot, I'd be pretty happy.
Well, I think that's an important thing to discuss too, as far as like whether you should buy this machine or not. Is this not the machine for everybody? Hopefully that's the point of this video, is really to ask those kind of hard questions that somebody might have but might not know that they need to ask.
Okay, let's try a shot. So as I open the piston, it's going to be basically pre-infusing. As soon as I release that, the spring's going to activate, and that's when we're going to generate our pressure. So we can look at this pressure gauge here when we do.
Okay, so
I'm allowing pre-infusion now. I'm going to go all the way down. We're going to go full sort of pressure here. And pre-infuse for maybe 2 seconds, and then I'm just going to let go. So you can see when I let go, this arm didn't go anywhere. It's not smacking me in the head, so that's about a 36 gram shot there. I'm going to pull it out.
yeah, it's really like soft.
Yeah.
And really delicate, but
I know some people don't like the word mouthfeel, but that's got a really great mouthfeel.
yeah, it's thick, man.
Yeah, no, it's nice.
What's up, everybody? We're back for another espresso machine review on the YouTube channel. I've got Calum with me from our in-house Save Us service department, and we've got a pretty slick looking machine today to look at. This is a Marzocco Leva. I've never seen one in person before. I don't think you've ever seen one in person?
When I was getting training.
Oh, okay, yeah, tech training. But really never seen one in a cafe before, so we were surprised when a client reached out to us this week with the machine that they have installed at their cafe, needing a little help on it. So this is a first for us in Toronto to see one. So we're pretty excited to get into the inside of this machine and see what makes this unique from all the rest of the machines on the lineup, and kind of get a better understanding of how we can service these machines when they do come back in. So Calum, why don't you tell me a little bit more about the Leva?
Yeah, so the Leva is La Marzocco's machine. It's basically their answer to the lever style espresso machine, which was the traditional way of making espresso machines where instead of using a pump to generate 9 bars of pressure or more or less pressure for an espresso shot, you're basically using a mechanical piston that opens up, allows water to go over top of the puck, and then it generates pressure with a spring-loaded piston that pushes the water onto the puck in an even sort of profile. This machine was introduced around the 90th anniversary for La Marzocco. They wanted to do something special, and this was what they came up with. A couple of things that are cool about this machine. Traditional lever machines, they can be pretty dangerous, honestly. Reason being, once you pull that lever down, if you don't have a coffee puck under there, if your puck is coarsely ground, once you release that lever, it can spring up. And if you don't have a good handle on it, it can hit you in the chin and give you a nice uppercut. So that was a source of injury for a lot of baristas in the lever days. What La Marzocco has come up with is basically a clutch on the cam that controls the piston. So if you release early, I'm not going to do it now because it kind of springs the piston down, but if you release, as soon as you let go, the clutch releases and this arm is fully detached from the spring-loaded mechanism. So there's no way that this is ever going to spring up and hit you. You'll see the, yeah, no, it's, I mean, it's very important. That's the number one thing. If anyone's buying a piston machine traditionally, you have to be very sure that they know what they're doing. And there is certainly a risk, you know, like it can be dangerous. So that's a great feature. The spring on this piston as well, it goes horizontally. Traditionally, the spring will be directly above the piston. So what that allows for is it allows for you to have a taller arm without, you know, having it all the way up here. Mm-hmm. So basically, if your piston spring is here, your cam is here, and then your arm's all the way up here, it's going to be a pretty high machine.
And you can see that spring right on the side here too, right?
Yeah.
So they've got this whole mechanism exposed with these acrylic panels, so you can actually see as the spring compresses to create pressure, and then you can view the actual piston that's pushing the water column through the puck of coffee.
Yeah. One thing you can do on this machine too, so if you're pulling your shots, you can basically start from anywhere here. You have a few different notches where you can grab it. Depending on where you start it, you can generate more or less pressure. So if you pull all the way down from here, you might be getting about 7 or 8 bars of pressure maximum. If you're starting from all the way down here and you're going all the way down, you'll probably get up to about 12 bars to start the shot.
So you can start with different pressure by engaging it at different points in the cam here.
Yep, exactly. And because it's a very mechanical piston machine, the less pressure you're starting with as well, the less sort of water you're bringing into the piston, which means the shorter the shot.
Okay, so that's a semi-volumetric.
To some degree, yeah. It is going to have a different pressure profile, though. If you want to have the same profile and just stop it earlier, you just basically take the cup away.
Well, it's not for like a beginner barista, that's for sure.
No,
right? Like
no, and there's nothing sort of set it and forget it about this machine. It's very hands-on, and you're basically doing all of the work of pulling the shot. So you have a lot of control over the shot that you're doing, but it's not quite as automated, I would say. There's a few things you can set on this machine that's pretty interesting. Obviously, being a La Marzocco machine, you have dual boilers, so you have a steam boiler and a coffee boiler. So it's separate temperatures for the steam and the coffee.
And you can see those through this little glass port on the side here too.
Yeah, they let you see quite a few things in there. It's PID controlled for the coffee boiler, meaning that you set one temperature and it's going to consistently hit that temperature. The group heads are the saturated group heads that La Marzocco is famous for, which gives you a very consistent temperature at the group.
Super stable.
Yep, very stable. You can set that all with the PID. Hot water here you can mix. So you have a cold water mix valve here.
Oh, so manual cold water.
Yep, so if you wanted to turn up the hot water temperature, you basically close the cold water mix. If you wanted to turn down your tea water temperature, you can open that up. You can see it's coming out a little faster now. It's a little cooler. So similar to like on the Strata, you have that option to adjust your tea temperature from the outside of the machine.
Cool.
These steam valves here are proportional. The more you pull them down, the more they're going to open.
So I guess different from like a standard PB, like a solenoid.
Yep. So this model here, it's the steam valve is actually the same as a PD. What's different is a PB. Sorry. What's different is the mechanism to open it.
Right.
Is a lever, and basically the more you push it, the more it's going to open that valve. On the Strata X, you have a steam valve system that's similar to a Strata, where it's a electronic solenoid valve. It's a proportional valve, so basically the more you turn the dial, the more it's going to open that valve. So this is the Leva S, which is a more mechanical version when it's got the PB steam valve. That's mechanical. If you get the Leva X, that's going to have the digital electronic steam valve.
I like this one. You can actually see it on the side here. When you open this up, this is the mechanism that opens that proportional valve. There's a plastic shim on there.
Other thing about the steam ones too is they are cool touch. So you can't feel the heat at all. They're fully insulated. So there's no risk of burning yourself when you're, pulling your shot. You don't burn your wrist or anything like that.
I like the angle on this too.
Yeah.
Like not the traditional
straight
out.
They're very sturdy too. You can see the ball joint here is about like, 1.5 inches.
Yeah, it's pretty solid.
Whereas on most traditional machines, the ball joint's pretty small. Just means less wear and tear, and it's also just kind of looks sturdier, and I like the look of it. I think it's pretty cool. A few other things you can set here. Underneath on the machine, there's a pre-infusion adjustment. So depending on your inlet line pressure, you can adjust this dial to either increase or decrease the pressure of your pre-infusion. So by pulling that out and turning it, we can adjust that. It depends on what your line pressure coming in is. You're not able to generate more pressure on the pre-infusion than you have coming to the machine. But with that, you can turn it down if you need to.
And line pressure is just like whatever your tap water pressure is coming in?
Yeah, typically it's 3 to 4 bars, something like that. If you have over 4 bars of pressure coming into the machine, you want to get a pressure reducer because it won't operate properly. If you have less than 2 bars, you want to get a pump hooked up to that.
Some kind of booster.
Yeah, and they do come with the pump, so if you need to, you can install it.
Okay.
This one doesn't have it. We have got about 4 bars of pressure here at the shop, so we don't need it either.
I guess that's a major difference between most La Marzocco machines and this one is that it doesn't require a pump. No, the other ones do.
Yeah, exactly.
Just because it's not relying on a pump to create pressure to brew with.
Yep. So I showed you before how if you pull down all the way, you're basically getting your max pressure at the puck. There is actually a way to adjust that maximum pressure on this machine, and that's using these adjustment nuts on the back here.
Oh, cool.
So using a wrench here, you can either tighten or loosen the spring. And by doing that, you're basically turning up or turning down your maximum pressure on the piston. So if you wanted it to be where when you pull it all the way down, your max pressure is 9 bars, you can adjust that by turning it out and then pulling your shots and seeing where it lands, and you can adjust it afterwards. So you can adjust both groups so they have the exact same sort of maximum pressure. And that's sort of just easily adjusted from the outside there. So that's one way you can control the pressure at the group heads, where most traditional oven machines, you kind of get what you get.
Yeah, I guess the tension of the spring would be the tension of the spring. And, and this, you can adjust the tension of that spring.
Yeah, exactly. And they made it very easy to do that. Yeah, so all that being said, I think we should pull some shots and
I'm ready.
See how it tastes, because this is a very sort of unique pressure profile that we don't get on a lot of machines.
Well, what coffee are we going to pull today?
We have the In Bloom espresso in the hopper here, so it's going to be a nice sort of fruity floral kind of vibe. I think a coffee machine like this will really bring out those notes. Yeah, I mean, it's a very unique flavor profile that you get from this machine, so I think we should try it out and see what
You're going to do a traditional dose, like 18 grams in, 36 grams out kind of thing?
We'll do the boomer shot, yeah, 2 to 1.
Let's do it.
So I'm just going to purge a bit of water. Okay, let's try a shot. So as I open the piston, it's going to be basically pre-infusing. As soon as I release that, the spring's going to activate, and that's when we're going to generate our pressure. So we can look at this pressure gauge here when we do.
Okay, so
I'm allowing pre-infusion now. I'm going to go all the way down. We're going to go full sort of pressure here and pre-infuse for maybe 2 seconds, and then I'm just going to let go. So you can see when I let go, this arm didn't go anywhere.
yeah, you're just using that spring now.
Yep, it's not smacking me in the head, so.
And then you
Nice
can
and
watch
safe.
this piston slowly compress.
And we can also keep an eye on the pressure gauge here. It's down to about 9 bars now. So the profile that you get from a piston machine is basically starts high, gradually works its way down. So that's about a 36 gram shot there. I'm going to pull it out.
Looks pretty good, Calum.
It does look pretty good.
And then this is just pushing the remaining volume of water.
Yep. So that's the thing. There's no sort of backflow prevention in this. There's no three-way valve. It's not going to sort of release the pressure. Otherwise, it's going to all come through the puck. So you got to wait until that's done dripping before you can take that out.
Right, because it's still pressurized.
Yep.
Until it's completed.
Yeah. This machine does have a bleed screw.
Okay.
If for any reason your pressure is too high, your puck is too fine, it's taking forever to come out, you can release the pressure slowly through.
Right, so if it's choked up and you can't release the portafilter, you can...
Yeah, you can also use that to clean in case you get any grinds or anything in the...
And when you release that, do you know where the pressurized water comes out of that?
It's going to squirt out of there a little bit, yeah.
So just be careful when you do that.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm going to try that.
Yeah, you go ahead. Looks like a nice shot. And it was like very silky looking.
Yeah, no,
coming out of the group head.
It's very high body, but also just like very smooth.
That smells great.
But I can still get a lot of the floral notes in there.
Yeah, it's really like soft.
Yeah.
And really delicate, but
I know some people don't like the word mouthfeel, but that's got a really great mouthfeel.
yeah, it's thick, man.
Yeah, no, it's nice. Maybe we can try one now with a little less pressure, or start it from a little lower. And
yeah, it's pretty nice how much like hands-on manual control you have to adjust things on the fly.
oh, totally, yeah. I mean, I have a client who actually has one of these machines in their house. It's a one-group version of this machine.
Pretty nice.
But I think, you know, if you're an espresso enthusiast and you're wanting to have that sort of ritual in the morning and something like, especially if like you're into gear and, you know, it's your thing to like me, obviously, this is my job, but I love this kind of stuff. I love the design of it. So if I got to look at this every morning as I was pulling my shot, I'd be pretty happy.
Well, I think that's an important thing to discuss too, as far as like whether you should buy this machine or not. Is this not the machine for everybody? So that kind of has to be, I think, a big conversation that you have with the person selling you this machine is like, you know, the honest conversation about what kind of maintenance we're looking at, what kind of user-friendly features it has that, or doesn't have that you might be expecting, especially if it's going to be in a cafe with a lot of staff. So,
Yeah.
you know, just hopefully that's the point of this video is really to ask those kind of hard questions that somebody might have, but might not know that they need to ask.
Yeah, I think it's great in a cafe setting where it's a little more like owner hands-on kind of thing.
Yeah.
If you're the sole barista and you know that you're going to be working most of the days in the shop and you want to be the sort of person in charge, then I think it works well in that sort of setting where you know that you're going to be in control of it. Like you said, if they're going to have a lot of staff and you have to train them all on how to use this machine, there's a lot of sort of user, a lot of it depends on the user. So you want to be sure that everybody knows what they're doing, or you have just a few dedicated people maybe that use the machine.
You're going to do this at a different pressure setting?
Yeah, I'll try it a little bit lower to start, and then pressure will go up a little bit. Not quite as high, because that one, our max pressure was about 12 bars, which is pretty standard for a Leva machine. I know people are all used to 9-bar shots. That's not always how it was. And piston machines, generally, they go up to about 12 and work their way down.
Yeah, you kind of have to think about your espresso recipe a little differently with the lever machine than a traditional pump machine.
Okay, so I'm going to start it, you know, I'll start about 2 notches down here and see what we got. So it's maxing out at about 10.5 bars. You can see it's slowly decreasing as the shot is pulling. Just love how quiet this machine is too.
Yeah, no gear pumps, no
any pumps. Okay.
The song of silence. And I guess by starting a few notches lower, you have less water bleed at the end of the shot.
Yeah. Yeah, less pressure, less volume.
Right.
But we were still able to get a 2-to-1 shot without, while still being able to pull it out a little early. So we could go even lower if we wanted to.
Well, something I've always been curious about with the different pressure profile of a lever machine versus a electric pump machine. With an electric pump machine, you know, let's say we have a standard recipe of 18 grams of coffee to a finished weight of 36 grams of espresso weight in, let's call it 30 seconds. That pressure profile jumps, moves, and stops, right?
Yeah.
At the end of the 30 seconds. With this, it kind of slowly peaks and then falls, which might take you outside of that 30-second range to achieve a full extraction.
Yep.
I remember the first time I ever used a lever machine, I was so frustrated trying to pull shots like I would in a regular coffee shop.
Yep.
And then I called Scott and he was like, oh, try a 40-second shot at a finer grind setting. And it was like the eureka hit.
Yeah. Yeah, and you got to
definitely play with it.
You got to realize too, if you're doing pre-infusion, that time, the whole time you're pulling that down and until you release it, that's basically all pre-infusion.
Right.
So you can have like a 5 to 10 second pre-infusion, then your extraction might be, you know, a full 30 seconds, whatever it is. So your total shot time might be more like 40. That one there, I think, is highlighting a little bit more brightness, maybe.
A little sip. Yeah, it's a little bright, but still really sweet, still really balanced, still sticky. I kind of want to try maybe as a finer grind.
Yeah, sure.
Like a 40-second shot.
Do it.
Let me go a little finer. Okay, so I just pull the whole thing down.
Yeah, just keep your hand on it when you release it too. There you go.
Okay.
That's one thing you want to do too, is when you don't have a puck in there, keep your arm on it the whole way up and down. If you release that, it's just going to shoot that piston straight down. It's not going to hurt you or anything, but it just kind of makes a loud clinking noise and it's not pretty. So if you want to purge, just keep your hand on it the whole time. So without the back pressure from the puck, it's just going to want to spring right down.
Right, there's nothing stopping it.
Yeah, exactly. You can start that, yeah.
You'll start here.
Yeah. I would just start out at the top there.
That one there?
Yeah, let it rip.
Okay, so we want to see it pre-infuse, which I'm at a finer grind, so
You can release it now if you want.
oh, and you can see this dialing back too.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'm gonna let the time be secondary and go by weight here.
Mm-hmm. It's about a 45-second shot.
So 45 seconds to achieve a 36 gram output. It's nice because in a pump machine, you would kind of see that as like a lot more like restricted flow in the bottom of the portafilter or the bottom of the basket, but it looks pretty even. Like
Yep.
the shots look really beautiful coming out here.
Yeah, I mean, the mechanical pumps at the rotary pumps, they are basically meant to mimic this pressure profile. So everything we've done with espresso machines up until now, after the piston machine, has been trying to sort of replicate this. So
Definitely not as bright, more sweetness.
oh yeah,
Yeah, there's definitely a way to work with the lever machine that's different from
Yep.
your standard machine.
I could see that being really nice in a cap too.
Yeah. So is there anything different about this machine for cleaning? Like I know that there might be some obvious differences with it.
Yeah. There's no back flushing on this one because obviously you don't have the pressure release.
Right.
So if you put a blind portafilter in there, the pressure is going to build up and it's not going to go anywhere.
Gotcha.
Basically, all you have to do is take that screen out and give it a little clean. You can just pop that right down.
Well, I noticed something about the puck. When it's finished, usually you'd see like an impression there from the screw, but this one doesn't have one.
There's no screw. Yeah, it just holds on with a little spring. So same thing you can do here. You just clean it with a soft brush. You can pop the shower screen down and clean that with a little Cafiza.
So you just pry it out?
Yep.
Nice.
One thing about this machine, though, yeah, here, I'm going to do that. Pops out super easy. The thing about this, though, is there's not any back pressure. So after you pull the shot, it's not going back up the shower screen.
Right. So they stay a lot cleaner a lot
Yeah,
longer.
it's not going to be perfectly clean, but it's not going to, there's basically nowhere above the screen where the coffee oils are going to go.
Right.
Because it's all being pushed through in the shot. So in that way, there's less cleaning to do. There is a bit of maintenance, though. Obviously, when you have a mechanical
Right.
anything, there is wear and tear. You're moving a piston up and down. There's gaskets that are going to wear out.
So maybe that's kind of an important thing to talk about with this machine. Is
Yeah, for sure. I mean, every few years, depending on your volume, you're going to have to rebuild the pistons.
Right.
As you can imagine, it's a lot of heat and pressure going through there. They use very high temperature Teflon and silicone inside of there, and they have a few different layers, which is going to make it very durable. But like anything, it's wear and tear, and you do have to rebuild it every once in a while.
Yep.
This machine was about 3 years old before it came to us, and we did a piston rebuild on that. So
Nice. And
depends on your volume, obviously. The more you use it, the more it's going to wear out the seals, but
it's a good problem to have if you're
Yeah.
using it a lot.
it's the way she goes.
Nice.
I will say the spring mechanism is very durable, though. I don't think
Yeah.
you'll ever have to rebuild that.
Yeah, they look like a pretty sturdy spring in there.
Yeah.
Well, that's really cool that you can adjust that spring. I've never seen that before.
Yeah,
didn't
that's,
even
I
know
mean,
that
it's
about this
totally unique to this machine. And yeah, I think the best thing that they did with this machine was make it safe.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that should be the standard if you're using piston machines.
Well, it's obviously much more expensive to build a cam
Yep.
system like that, but yeah, if you've ever used a lever machine commercially, it's a nightmare, especially if you've had it spring back on you like that.
Oh, yeah.
I also find these actually pretty easy to use as far as like, arm strength required to pull the lever.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, they've sort of cantilevered it here to make it a little easier on the arm, too, where it's not, you're not pulling the whole spring by yourself. It's got an access point there.
You're not going to get one wicked bicep off this machine.
You will.
Just
You will.
need-
You're not going to strain your
time.
wrist, though, yeah.
Amazing. And then some of the the panel access stuff is all on the bottom here.
Yep. That display is not working. We're still waiting to repair that.
Yeah. So that's phase 2 of this machine, but
Yeah.
pretty easy to access everything under
Yeah.
here.
You can access any of your programming underneath there.
And this gauge, this is the,
That's your pre-infusion pressure.
okay, so this tells you exactly what your pre-infusion line pressure is.
Exactly. So as you're running it too, you can see where it sits exactly.
All right.
So right now it's, 2.8, something like that.
So that's how you would know whether you needed a, booster pump or a pressure restrictor.
Yep.
Very cool. Well, I like when we had the machine open, when we were looking at it from just servicing it and stuff.
Yeah. Do you want to see inside?
There were some pretty cool brackets that kept the front boiler protected.
Oh yeah. You can't.
That was a pretty amazing feature. I don't know if
You
we
see
can
it through
that,
here.
but-
Kind of. You can kind of see it in here. The neck of the coffee boiler, obviously, because the boiler is a big round cylinder and this neck sort of cranes out like that. If you're pulling on that constantly, there is the sort of it wants to put pressure down on the group head
Right.
and pull it away from the boiler. So La Marzocco thought of that, and they've added a bracket to the neck of the group head, so that basically holds it to the frame of the machine, and it prevents that sort of downwards pushing on the group.
Right. So the frame's bearing the pressure, not the
Not the
boiler.
boiler, exactly. Because it's another thing too on some traditional Leva machines is you got these are stainless steel, medical grade steel. So this is very high quality steel. On some of the older ones, they have like a copper or brass boiler, a brass group head on the copper boiler.
So a lot softer.
Yeah, a lot softer, and it's usually bolted to the frame on the front of the machine, but there is still a bit of a tendency to pull down.
Right.
You can see sometimes that the heat exchanger might crack. So they thought of that. They've secured it down to the frame of the machine, so it's not going anywhere. It's a lot of fun too. I'm glad I got to rebuild it too. That was a fun experience. It's a unique process for sure, but they've also made that pretty easy here, where you depressurize the machine, turn off the water. You can pull the group head straight out of here with the 4 screws.
Yep.
That pops right off. And then you can basically take the piston apart very easily without taking apart the entire machine.
That's nice. Makes it quick for.
It does, yeah. I mean, I was kind of surprised. I thought I was going to be working on this all day, and it only took about 2 hours to rebuild that group head.
It's a nice surprise. Mm-hmm. Especially if you're paying your technician by the hour.
That's right, yeah. Nobody likes that. I like to think people like me, but they don't like to see me that often.
Right. Amazing. Well, thanks for your insight, Calum.
Yeah, for sure.
Appreciate it. And,
I'm happy to.
thanks for pulling me some nice shots, too.
Yeah, that's delicious.
Well, if you found that useful and informative, like and subscribe, and hopefully we'll see you again for another special machine review on something cool the next time it comes in. Perfect time.